Lagos never slept. Its nights shimmered with headlights, club lights, and restless ambition. From the marble balcony of his penthouse in Banana Island, Damien Adeyemi could see the glow of Victoria Island and hear the distant rhythm of the city's chaos. Music, traffic, life. But Damien didn't do chaos. He controlled it. At 37, he was the youngest and most feared real estate mogul in Lagos. His empire, Adeyemi Holdings, had started with a single risky land bid in Lekki Phase 1 and had now spread across commercial complexes, luxury estates, and waterfront resorts in Ape and Ikoyi. If it had concrete, steel, and a sea view, chances were it belonged to him, or was fighting to survive against him. He didn't smile often. He didn't need to. His presence in a room was enough to silence negotiations, rattle boardrooms, and make politicians stammer. The Lagos elite called him the Wolf of Banana Island, a nickname born from his ruthlessness in courtrooms and backdoor deals alike. Damien Adeyemi turned from the view and stepped into his living room, where the city's chaos never intruded. The air was cold, sterile, scented with imported oud and silence. A 95-inch TV hung on the wall, muted. A single glass of whiskey, aged 25 years, sat untouched on a marble side table. Two assistants sat quietly near the kitchen, typing away on iPads. His phone buzzed. "Sir, the chairman of Bluegate Properties is on line 2, one of the assistants said. "Make him wait." "But he said it's urgent." "I said make him wait," Damien repeated, adjusting the cuff of his Tom Ford shirt. He didn't rush for anyone. That was the first rule. The second rule: never lose control. Ever. Which was why, when his younger sister Tenny called from London, he declined the video call without a thought. He loved her, sure, but love didn't fit into power moves and deadlines. She'd call again. Or not. He was too busy to care right now. He finally picked up line 2. "What is it, Alhaji Musa?" Damien Adeyemi asked, voice cold as steel. There was a pause. Then the hesitant reply, "Please, sir. I've reconsidered. We can sell you the Bagada land. 50 million above your last offer." Damien's lips curled slightly. Not a smile, just satisfaction. "I'll take it. But only at the original offer. You called me. That tells me you're desperate." "But sir, my investors. They can find another buyer. Or you can take my offer now." Another silence. Then, "Agreed." Damien ended the call. Another win. He poured himself a splash of whiskey and took a single sip, watching the news ticker roll across the silent TV. Politicians were scrambling over new land regulations. Protests in Yaba. Flood warnings. Nothing he couldn't weather or profit from. His phone buzzed again. A text. "Your mother's gala is tomorrow night. You promised to attend. Tenny." He rolled his eyes. His mother's yearly charity gala, the only social event he couldn't dodge. Not because he cared, but because she insisted. And no matter how rich or powerful Damien became, Mama Adeyemi still held him to promises made when he was 12. He responded with a thumbs-up emoji. The following evening, the Adeyemi family mansion in Ikoyi was a hive of activity. Damien arrived late, of course. He pulled up in a matte black Range Rover, freshly waxed, license plate personalized, Adeyemi 1. The valet opened his door with shaky hands, either from the intimidating sight of him or the stories he'd heard. Inside, chandeliers dripped with gold and crystal. Waiters floated through crowds carrying trays of canapés and champagne. It wasn't just a charity gala, it was a declaration of class. Old money mingled with new, politicians nodded respectfully to business moguls, and everyone paused just a little when Damien stepped into the hall. He didn't smile. He nodded once and moved with deliberate ease through the crowd. "Damien!" A high-pitched voice rang out. His mother, Mama Adeyemi, still regal in her 60s, wrapped in flowing royal blue Yoruba attire, diamonds shimmering at her ears, strode toward him. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come," she said, kissing his cheek. "Tenny bet me 50,000 Nigerian nairas you'd show up late." "You raised me well, Mama. I know how to make an entrance." She gave him a look. "Don't be smart with me. Go mingle. And no business talk tonight. This is for the children." Damien nodded, already calculating which connections were worth 5 minutes of small talk. As he turned, his gaze swept across the room and stopped. Near the far end of the hall stood a woman in a forest green gown, talking to an elderly donor. She wasn't dripping in designer logos like the others, but something about her drew the eye. Poise, elegance, a certain confidence that didn't beg for attention but quietly owned it. She laughed at something the old man said, her hand brushing back her curls. Her features were delicate but sharp, eyes alert and knowing. Not shy. Not trying to impress anyone. She looked like a woman who knew who she was, and didn't care who he was. That annoyed him, strangely. "Who's that?" Damien asked, nudging his cousin Akin, who stood beside him sipping a drink. Akin followed his gaze.
"That's Vanessa Bola." "From which Bola family?" "None that I know. She's not one of us. Works in urban planning or something. She helped the foundation with a project in Makoko last year." "Makoko?" Akin smirked. "Yeah. Actual water slums. Community projects. I heard she turned down 2 government contracts because she didn't want to play dirty." Damien raised an eyebrow. "She turned down money? She's idealistic, bro. You know the type." Damien sipped his champagne. "No, I don't." And with that, he began walking toward her. Vanessa noticed him approaching before he even got halfway there. It was hard not to. People literally stepped aside for him like he was Moses parting the Red Sea. She'd seen his face in business magazines, headlines, gossip blogs. She knew the type: moneyed, magnetic, and mildly insufferable. She kept talking to the elderly donor, refusing to acknowledge him until he was nearly beside her. "Good evening," Damien said smoothly. "Damien Adeyemi." She turned, smiled, but not like she was impressed. "Vanessa Bola. I know who you are." "Is that so?" "Yes. You're the man who tore down a youth center in Surulere to build a luxury apartment complex." He tilted his head. "It was abandoned. We offered to relocate them. You offered 2-month hotel vouchers. Then tripled the rent when the new complex opened." Damien's smile was tight. "Are you always this direct?" "Only when necessary." There was a pause, thick with quiet challenge. "I hear you work in urban development," he said, eyes cool. "Community-centered architecture," she corrected. "We build for people, not profit." "So, charity work?" "No," she said firmly. "Sustainable city planning. With ethics." He chuckled. "That's cute." Her expression didn't change. "I'm not flirting, by the way," he added. Someone called her name across the room. She gave him a polite nod. "Enjoy the gala, Mr. Adeyemi." And then she turned and walked away. Damien stared after her, a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years rippling through him. Rejection? No, not quite. She wasn't rude, just unimpressed. Later that night, as he sat in his car, the city lights blurring past, he replayed their conversation in his mind. It wasn't that she disagreed with him. People did that all the time. But most did so while still trying to curry favor, to stay in his orbit. Not Vanessa. She didn't blink when he mentioned who he was. She didn't hang on his words. She didn't try to impress him. It was mildly insulting. It was also deeply intriguing. He picked up his phone. "Get me everything on Vanessa Bola," he texted his assistant. The reply came 5 minutes later. She runs a firm called Urban Nest. Mostly NGO contracts. She's consulted for Lagos State once, but no major ties to big players. Clean record. Educated in the UK. Single. No scandals. No debts. Background, he texted. Middle class. Father was a civil engineer. Deceased. Mother's a retired teacher. No political ties. Damien stared at the screen. Unbothered by wealth. Immune to charm. And apparently self-made. He liked puzzles. And Vanessa Bola just became one he wanted to solve. 3 weeks later, Damien had never been to Yaba without a driver, without tinted windows, and certainly not on foot. But here he was. He'd parked 2 blocks away, dressed in a gray polo and jeans, still designer, but subdued enough to blend. For once, he wasn't being followed by bodyguards or assistants. This was recon. Curiosity disguised as coincidence. The Urban Nest office wasn't flashy. A 2-story building with a corrugated zinc sign, squeezed between a dentist and a struggling tailoring shop. The place smelled of old paper, cheap paint, and purpose. There was no reception desk, just a narrow hallway and the faint hum of voices in a meeting room. He peered inside. Vanessa stood at the whiteboard, diagramming something about traffic flow and pedestrian safety. Around her, for interns scribbled notes. And if we expand pedestrian corridors by even 1 meter in Ojuelegba, we'll reduce accidents by at least 15%, based on the UN Habitat model, she was saying. No fanfare. No theatrics. Just knowledge. Passion. And people listening because she earned it, not because she owned the building. Damien found himself watching longer than he intended. One of the interns noticed him. "Can I help you, sir?" Vanessa turned, her eyes narrowing. He stepped forward with a faint, unapologetic smile. "Nice little operation you've got here." She looked at him like he'd barged into her kitchen uninvited. "Are you lost, Mr. Adeyemi?" "No. I was in the area." He lied. "Thought I'd stop by." "For what?" "You don't invest in social development." "I'm considering diversifying." She folded her arms. "We're not for sale. I didn't offer to buy." "You will. Eventually. People like you always do. You sniff around, take what you like, slap your name on it, and double the price." The interns were watching in stunned silence. Damien's smile dropped a degree. "You know, not everyone's out to exploit. You built a resort over a freshwater mangrove and called it eco-friendly. You are exploitation wrapped in PR." He let that hang in the air, tension tight as piano wire. And then, something happened he didn't expect. She smiled. But not kindly. It was the kind of smile that says, "You don't scare me. I don't have time for games, Mr. Adeyemi. Unless you're here to fund clean toilets in Ajij, I suggest you leave."
Hi guys, please subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories. Thank you.